Currently, Saudi Arabia and Afghanistan are two of the most dangerous and unequal places for women to live. In both of these nations, women have a rough time making their own decisions when the law and the people around them are against their ideas and thoughts. Saudi Arabia has some of the most tightest restrictions on women. Many of the laws that oppress women are mainly due to their religion. In Islam, men believe women lack the necessary thinking to survive, and that they are bound for corruption. Due to this belief, there are several limitations placed on women, such as the fact that they must wear a black robe called an abaya to cover their entire bodies at all times, as, is, as it would be a sin to show their body in public and or cause temptation in men. Another limitation placed on women by the Arabian law book is the fact that their life is completely controlled by men and must get a man's approval for almost everything. Women have to get an approval for getting a passport, marrying, divorce, opening a bank account, getting a job, and much more. Women could even get sent to prisons and the male guardians decide whether she should be let out or not, meaning sometimes women are stuck in prisons just because the male wants her to be, and the same goes for divorce. If the woman would like to divorce their husband for whatever reason, the man will decide whether this happens or not. Women also cannot drive without their male guardian or husband present in the car with them, and will be arrested and fined for doing so when caught. Women currently take up as little as 5% of the workforce in Saudi Arabia, since there are only a few places where women can work without being mixed up with men, as that would also be breaking the Islamic law. Even though the graduation of women is particularly high, employment rates are still at a low. The inequality between men and women continues to plague the nation, which currently lives in poverty when they have such a huge workforce on standby doing nothing. Fortunately enough, the previous king has recently stepped down and has given the throne to his son, Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud. King Saul has started to relax law regulations against men, even letting them go play sports, go watch sports events, and even participate in the Olympics, as well as some rules relaxing in the future. Even though rules are changing, life is still very different for women when compared to the rest of the world. Women have yet to become independent and still aren't able to make their own decisions. And as for Afghanistan, the situation only gets worse from there. The Taliban, which translates to religious students, are Islamic extremists and believe they should purify the world through violence, attacks, and war. The Taliban rose to power after the Civil War, during which they conquered the government and established outrageous laws. This was due to the fact that Pakistan teamed up with the Taliban, as Pakistan wanted a base in the western flank to make sure they could be prepared for a possible war with Iran. The Taliban ruled Afghanistan from 1996 to 2001, when they were taken down by the US when they gave hospitality to Osama bin Laden and the national terrorist group Al Qaeda because of their attacks on the World Trade Center in September 11th, 2001. But even after being taken out by US militants, Taliban insurgents continue to plague the nation. As they are consistent with their attacks, the war between Afghanistan and US has been the longest war in US history. After being toppled, there is still a speculation that Taliban are stronger than they were back in 2001, because they have more support from other terrorist groups as nations such as ISIS, Pakistan, and Al Qaeda. On top of that, insurgent attacks sparked throughout 2017, attacking major cities and killing tens, if not hundreds, of civilians. The Taliban continue their strikes on cities and rural areas of Afghanistan as nations like the US continue to try and negotiate peace. With each attack, women are raped and killed, along with many other equally fated civilians, and with no clear end to the war in sight. Military troops are currently stationed there, training Afghan people to fight against the Taliban for their nation, along with the US support. Almost 60% of girls are married by 16, plus the fact that 80% of marriages in poor rural areas are either forced or arranged. Poverty also increases because women cannot deny men sex, and 87% of the women do not use contraceptives. I think that was it before we started.